Hello and welcome to the second video for the Git Advanced, or at least the second video. I think there's actually some other videos that are being recorded for this week. Before I dive into the second part of at least kind of the overall lecture here, I wanted to make some notes. There's some things that I got confused, at least in terms of how the structure of the course will go with these recorded videos. In the last video, I mentioned that there would be an exercise that would be completed after the first video. That is not true. I got a bit confused as to how the in-person classes go in terms of there being kind of a lecture and then having some exercises. So there's no exercises during this week, at least not any extra Git related ones. If you have homework from a different lesson, then obviously you should do that. But as far as Git Advanced Lesson 2, Week 2 is concerned, there's no other exercises related to these videos. I would recommend that if you have some time, that you try some of the things that we're looking at in these videos on your own, even if it's just on a repo that you make just for that purpose, just because the more we practice it, the more you'll get comfortable with it. But there's no required or mandatory exercises or lessons, so I'm sorry if that was a bit confusing. And then in regards to this video, what we're going to be, this video should be a bit shorter, and the plan is to look at how we work locally on our machines when changes are being made by other developers, mainly on GitHub. So the plan is to kind of take a look at what that might look like, how we update our local branches when changes have been made to remote branches, so that our commit history makes sense. So the first thing that I will do is I will come to the slideshow. So we covered quite a few things in the last video, but I didn't really mention what we have on this slide here. I kind of skipped over that because after we made our official, our new branch that was called feature cities, feature/cities, we pushed that and we made a pull request and we're done. What I didn't mention here in the last video is here, which is a commit on master, this EE2371B. That commit hash that another developer has made, and if our master branch on the remote master, if that has extra commits on it, essentially if somebody did extra work that got merged into master, how do we ensure that the changes that we're doing on our branch that we're working on are actually kind of come in line with those new changes. So I'm just going to switch to some, so this is what we did locally. What I didn't include in the last video was this change remotely. So that's what we're going to do today. So we're going to go through this process here with a new branch, not entitled feature/cities, but something different. And then we'll make the change remote on the remote branch as if another developer has made it. And then we're going to update our local branch and talk about the strategies for doing that. So yeah, again, I apologize if there's confusion on that, but I hope that it makes a little bit more sense if we walk through it here. So let me reorganize my tabs there. So I am on the same repository as we were in the last video. Nothing has changed, at least that I know about. I don't think anyone else is working on this repo than myself. So we are going to do a git status. You can see that I have nothing to commit. There's no untracked files. I'm in a clean git state, which is always where you want to be when you're starting. Just for good measure, I'm going to do a good git pull origin master to ensure that I have the latest changes. In the last video, I did a git fetch, but I don't think that I really clarified what that meant. and a git fetch actually just pulls down the last commits that happened remotely. It doesn't actually merge the changes into a branch. It will just retrieve the commits that you don't have locally. It won't actually change your local branches. But that the git fetch is actually not used that often, and this one has a very specific has a specific reason to only retrieve the commits and not get not merge the changes onto the branch. Another thing that we should mention is that sometimes it can be a good idea to have to be completely sure about where our local branch is pointing to remote, and the way that we can look at that is by doing git remote v. And so here you can see you can see that it's pointing to origin, and the origin is git@github.com :nquik/git advanced. And my repo is called this. What exists here after origin, this can vary depending on how you're authenticated. So it might be what looks more like a URL if you are using HTTP instead of SSH. But that's just a good idea to know that now I'm completely sure that I'm pointing to the right origin. If you've ever looked on GitHub, there's something called clone. No, sorry, not clone. You know what clone is. Actually fork. You can fork a repository. And if you're doing open source development, that might be something that you do. But that basically you take whatever other person's repository is, and you actually make a copy of it, which is different than just cloning it down. Because when you clone it, you're actually pointing to that person's repository. But if you make a fork, you actually make a copy of the repository. And if you do that, you want to be very sure that you're pointing to the right remote repository, because I've made the mistake of doing a fork and then trying to push to somebody else's repository, which is not what I wanted to do. So that's just a note. I don't really think there will be that many people that will be doing that, but if you see that on GitHub and you are curious about it, feel free to ask more questions about it. So we're going to go into the demo part of this lecture. So at this point, I'm going to go on to a new branch. I'm going to show you. On the last video, we did git branch name that created the branch, and then we did git checkout branch name to move to the branch from whatever branch we were on. I'm going to show you how to do that in both of those steps in a single step. So if I do this git checkout -b and then branch name, you actually create the branch and switch to it in a single command. So it's just a way to get rid of one of those steps. So I'm going to do git feature more cities. Not .txt, I just need a branch name here. So you can see that I've created the branch and I've switched to it, and I have feature more cities in my prompt here so that I know that I'm on that new branch. I'm going to go into my cities.txt. I'm actually going to make some changes here. So I'm going to say that actually it was 2018 that I visited some of these cities here, just for note. And then actually it was in 2019 that I visited these cities. So that's my change that I want to make, at least for now. And then we have some other changes that we'll make in a bit. But at this point, I'm going to do a git status to see where I'm at. You can see I have unstaged changes. Now I want to git add cities.txt, and now I will do a git commit. Split cities by year 2018 and 2019. And it's always a good idea to try to do more explaining than less explaining on these git commit messages. So now we know that I have made some changes. I added them into the staging area and I committed them. And this is all locally. Nothing, not even this branch exists remotely. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do this remote commit on master branch as if somebody has made a change. So what we will do here, I need to actually open it. So for this part of the lecture, I'm going to make it as simple as possible because I want to not create extra confusion. So in this remote change that I'm going to make, I'm going to change a file that we're not working on locally. So this means that if we make a change in this README file, which is a different file, it's not going to create a conflict on our branch that we're working in, because we're working on a different file. I'm going to add something very substantial, like add another line one more time. And you can see that when I make a change on GitHub here, this is actually a commit. Excuse me. So this isn't like Google Pages, for instance, or Google Sheets, I think it's called. This isn't like you're just saving and it saves automatically. You're actually making a commit when you make a change on this README file or whatever file it is in GitHub. So I'm gonna leave a little message here. It's going to be remote update on README. So that's my commit message. I'm going to commit that change right now. And we know that now I've only made a remote change on the master branch, and we know that that change exists because we made it. But when we're working with somebody else, we might not know that somebody is making a change. If they're making a change that could be in the same file as we were working on, hopefully we know that in advance because we were trying to coordinate our work. But if you're working with other people, there's going to be changes in all other kinds of files. And for the large majority of occasions, there's not going to be conflicts, or there are going to be changes in other files that don't impact your work. But we know that since I made that change on master, we know that this branch here, feature more cities, is not updated with the latest changes, nor is my master branch. Now, if we say that we're ready right now, if I say I'm done, I split the years, I actually should add some more, right? Because I said more cities and I haven't added any cities. So that would be kind of an incorrect branch name if I didn't add some cities to this. Let's say Milan. Where else do we want to go? That one's capitalized. Let's make it small. And let's say Stockholm. I want to get rid of that extra line. So now I've actually added some more cities, right? So let's add 2020 and the cities I visited. Good. So if we look at our git log, we can see that on my branch, which is this one, feature more cities, I have 2 extra commits here with the commit messages that I've made. We can see that it's telling me that origin master is on this commit and my local master branch is on this update readme commit. That might be a little bit confusing because this is a commit that I made as a part of my own practice, but this is actually not where origin master is. So how can we know that? Well, if one way to find out in a certain way is to create to push my branch now and to make a pull request, because technically, if I would push this branch, let me do it. If I move back here, I should see that I have a new branch. which I see here. If I do a compare and pull request, we can see my changes that I've made here. If I create this pull request, there should not be a problem. And that's even considering that this branch that I'm making a pull request is actually behind master. And it's not a problem because there's no conflicting files. But it's best practice that we update our branches with the latest changes before excuse me, before making a pull request. Just as a matter of kind of common courtesy, so that whenever we're making a pull request, the people that are looking at it, they know that it is updated with the latest changes. So we'll look how to do that now. So there's different strategies for how you can do this, but we're going to go with the simplest one. I don't know exactly the one that you'll be working with your group members, but there's just kind of multiple ways to do in more or less the same thing. So to update this feature/more cities branch with the latest changes that are on master remote, I'm going to git checkout master. This is my local master branch. I'm going to do git pull origin master. If I do git log again, you can see that now since I've pulled origin master, now you can see that instead of being on this update readme commit, you can see that head master, my local branch here, my head is pointing to this master branch, as is origin master on this remote update on readme that we made in GitHub. And then you can see that my origin feature cities, the branch that I just pushed to GitHub, and my local feature cities branch is at this commit, add additional cities I visited. So you can see that I'm actually behind origin master and my local master branch because I just updated. But now I want to update my feature. But now I'm thinking feature cities. That's the last branch that we made. We don't actually see. Let me switch to my the branch that we created in this lesson, which is git checkout feature more cities. Let's take a look where this branch is. So you can see that in the last last git log that I ran when we were on master, there was a different set of commits. So we can see here when I do run git log from this feature/more cities branch, you can see that there's a different set of commits. And in the way that we're doing pull requests now, when we actually bring these two branches together, we talked yesterday about that merge commit. And that merge commit is made when we bring these different histories together. So to combine these different histories, the history, the git log history of master branch and this other branch that we're on, this feature/more cities, we create a new commit to make the combination, or to say, here we're combining these changes. And that's what the merge commit is, which we can see in just a bit. But I actually want to, let's see what happens if I git merge master. So I'm taking what exists on master and I'm merging it into this branch. And you can see I actually have a merge commit here. So just in the similar way that if I do a pull request and then merge my feature branch into master, I have another merge commit here. So this is OpenMe in Vim, which can be a little bit hard to get out of. It's always :Q or :WQ if you have made changes in the file. So if now I've merged the latest changes of master onto this branch, so if I do git log again, you can see that the changes from origin master, this remote update on README, has been added into this branch. And you can see that my branch that's remote, this origin feature/more cities, is one commit ahead of origin master, but then my local branch of feature / more cities is actually one commit ahead, which is the merge commit that we just made. So that can be a little bit confusing without drawing some pictures. And it's another way to put it is that since I didn't have any conflicts merging the changes from master branch into my feature branch weren't actually necessary, but I just wanted to show how it looked. So now if we do git push origin, not origin master, that would be bad. More cities. I'll go back into GitHub. This will update. And you can see that when we merged the master branch into feature more cities, it was merged. If we want to look at this. Yeah, so now I'm going to go back to this one, and I'm going to actually do a git fetch. Let's take a look here just to be certain here. I actually don't have to do a fetch because now we can see, I just want to ensure that I have the order correct on GitHub in terms of these commits. You can see that it's remote update on README at 2020 in the cities I visited, and then we have the merge commit. So if we go back here, it goes kind of in this downward order in terms of this ordering on GitHub. So if we go back here, now at this point, we had created a branch. Somebody had made some changes that were merged into master. The remote change of the README file. We updated our local branches, merged those changes from master into our branch, and now we have updated our branch, and now we can merge this pull request without a problem. And I delete the branch. Now I go back here to my browser here. I will git checkout master. I will git pull origin master, because if we look in our history, we can see that we are still only having remote update on README. We don't have the new changes in the cities.txt file with the different years in it. So if we do git pull origin master, we get the years, and now we are fully up to date, and we even have another merge commit when we merge the pull request into master branch. So